I'm Hazel. Welcome to Reflect. This is my channel where we usually talk about like art and books and philosophy and things. Today we are going to be talking about emotions. So I'm going to give you like 3 really cool strategies that I have been using. This is my laptop. I don't know why I feel the need to say that and show you my laptop every time I look here. But anyway, so I'm going to give you like 3 really cool strategies on emotion regulation. So super quick, emotion regulation is just the ability to identify your emotions and sort of not control them. I don't like that word, but manage them in the difficult situations where you might feel like, you're going to have an outburst or you're going to yell at someone, or just a time when you're dealing with difficult emotions when it's hard to regulate. These strategies are very cool for that, and especially if you're someone with BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. Emotions go all over the place and in waves, and they are just jumpy and they can be sort of unpredictable. So this is a good way to sort of identify those emotions and be able to manage them better. So let's get into it. The first one is, okay, create a bank of positive emotions. Basically, I'm kind of stealing this one from my doctor, and I'm kind of revamping it also, so it's not entirely not mine, but basically, so when you're going about your day and you're meeting the people you meet and you're working with people, you interact with your friends and family, so in those situations you're going to remind yourself that, okay, my goal here is to create a bank of positive emotions. So how do you do that? If you're feeling like a really negative emotion, right, or like a difficult emotion, you're hurt or you're angry or you're sad or you're bitter or any of that, let's say you are having like this kind of argument with someone. So there are 3 ways that this negative emotion inducing situation could work out, right? Number 1 is that it's toxic or there's no way to resolve that situation, so you leave. The second thing is that in that moment itself you can sort of manage your emotions and regulate yourself, and then you can respond to the other person. And the third way is you take a break from the situation and you come back. So going over these, the first thing is, like I said, like if it's just a toxic situation, it's not going anywhere, you've been going back and forth for a while, but you're not able to understand each other, just a simple sentence like something like, hey, I want to talk about this, but I don't think I am in the right frame of mind right now, so let's come back to this later. All right, and then you just leave the situation. So the aim here is to think about your bank of positive emotions as like this kind of boundary, this kind of wall, right, around you, where you only filter in positive emotions. This doesn't mean that you can never feel a negative emotion or a difficult emotion, but each time you're in a situation where a really negative emotion is coming up, we do need to think of how we can turn that into positive, or at the very least neutral. So leaving a difficult situation where there's no resolution that's happening is the best way for that particular situation. The next thing is, and this happens with BPD a lot, and it happens to all of us, I think, where you technically in the back of your mind, there's this small voice in your head that's saying, okay, this person is probably right, but you just don't want to agree with them. And you're having this fight and you're kind of overreacting, but you're not able to like stop yourself. So what you do there is you take a break, like I said. What you're going to do there is follow this principle of RRR, 3 R's, right? R's, which is reward, resolve, and response. You are going to either give yourself a little reward, a little treat. What that means is, like, if you're just not in the mood to deal with that situation, you don't even want to talk about it, you don't want to think about it, you're just going to give yourself a little treat, whatever it is. You want to nap, you go to sleep, you want to read a book, you want to watch a movie, you want to go for a walk and like just take in the fresh air and take your mind off of the situation. So you do that. Next step is resolve. So for resolve, you're just going to either journal about it or talk to a friend, but think through it. Going on a walk and thinking through it is also a great idea, but you try to resolve that situation in your head of like, what were the sort of facts of the situation, how did I respond, how did they respond, and how else can I see the situation that I'm thinking about right now, how else can it be viewed, do I have tools that I have used before this for this sort of a situation, and what are my next steps, what should I do now? So these are the kind of questions you can ask yourself for the resolve stage. And then the final stage is response, right? This is very important, because what happens often is that like we have a little argument with someone, and then we just like give it space, right? We just give it a break, and then we just pick up and get back into our relationship or friendship or whatever as if nothing happened. But then those feelings still stay there. That bitterness or that kind of grudge or that kind of like just those difficult negative emotions still stay there, because that situation is not resolved, right? No matter how big or small it is, but if plenty of those even small kind of disputes get stacked up, eventually you're both or one of you is going to have a sort of outburst or reaction. So you do want to resolve this. So that's why you do want to respond at the end. So then once you've finished the resolve stage, you respond, you get back to that person, you say, hey, like, we're both much calmer now, this is how I feel, I've thought about how you said you felt too, what can we do about this, like, let's talk about it, this is what I think, what do you think, right? Take the other person's thoughts and inputs as well, and sort of come to a resolution there. I will say here that if this is a person where you are not able to make any progress, like let's say the relationship is toxic or this sort of keeps happening, then this is a stage where you eventually ask yourself, like, how is it worth it? Is this benefiting? Is this relationship really benefiting you? What are the sort of pros and cons? Are you often feeling this way because of this person? Do you keep going around in circles? Maybe talk to a friend or a therapist or whatever. And then the third thing I had mentioned here was that without taking a break, if you have the sort of mental and emotional bandwidth to deal with the situation in the moment itself, you can do that with a tool called opposite action. So opposite action is basically where you realize in that moment itself that, okay, I'm wrong, or or even if you're not wrong or the other person is wrong or whatever, but you're able to have a conversation with that person in the moment without it being this huge fight between the two of you. So this is where you do this tool called opposite action, which is basically exactly what it sounds like. You make a sort of physical movement or action in that moment where you regulate yourself. So what this means is, like, let's say you're hurt and upset, and so your instinct is to sulk, not talk to anyone, right, and just be moody in general. So opposite action is really quick. Like, instead of like sort of slouching, you could just like sort of, sit up straight. If you're feeling like hurt and there's like this frown on your face, like you just like smile at the person to like let them know that, hey, we're okay, we're gonna work this out. You could just hug that person if you're feeling like angry at them in this moment. Literally hug them, and it will just improve like the mood and the situation and the tense atmosphere completely. Or if you feel like you've genuinely done something wrong and you're able to recognize it in that moment, just apologize, hug the person, work it out. And often like these small tiny changes, like just like, recognizing and improving your posture or smiling or like just talking to the person instead of ignoring them, if you are able to do so in the moment, it can just help dissolve that situation and that tension completely. So opposite action is really good. You should try it out. But obviously, if this is not something that you're able to do in the moment and you feel like you will only make things worse if you keep talking, then definitely take a pause from that situation and then come back to it. So that was the first tool. The second tool is about perception. So perception is really important in the sense of like, especially when it comes to BPD, something that's common for us is to see not even negative, but every constructive criticism or feedback or just something that someone says to us, just we read their gestures and we read their words in this offensive way and we feel rejected. Rejection is very common with BPD. So how you deal with that is two simple questions that you can ask yourself. Number one, what was their intention? Very simple. So often what happens is that when something has happened, someone said something to you and you feel hurt, it's very easy to sit in that feeling, right? To wallow. And especially it's very hard for BPDers to be able to control this because it's a lot of times it's out of our control entirely. Our sort of emotions go up and down, we have mood swings, and there's a whole bunch of other emotional problems that BPDers go through. But if you are able to ask yourself this question, instead of sitting in that mood, the rational, like your brain will just think of like, okay, what was their intention? And then once you realize that, okay, this person wasn't trying to hurt me, this person, it's not that they don't care about me, it's not that they hate me, it's not that they don't love me, their intention was good, they were trying to help me. Or even if they said something, mean or something rude, it's still like, okay, maybe they were having a bad day and it's their issue, it's not my issue to deal with. That's another thing that helps with BPD a lot, that we take everything as like rejection. Everything is sort of like, I am feeling rejected in this moment. But if we remove the I, and it could just be that they are having a bad day and it kind of came out on us, but it has nothing to do with us, it's a them issue. Or even if it is some sort of direct like feedback we are receiving, let's say at work or something, the intention here is to help us, the intention here is to encourage our growth, the intention here is to make us see something that we couldn't see on our own, right? So it's all about how you're perceiving that situation. And that's the first question. What was the intention helps a lot, because then the rational like part of your mind, like your brain, is going to work instead of your heart. So so the second question is, how else can I look at this, right? How else can I view this situation? Also always great, because it's similar to the first one in the sense that you will be thinking not about yourself, but about like the kind of other aspects in that situation. Let's say, for instance, someone called you out on like, hey, that thing you said was like offensive, I didn't like it, it made me feel bad. So, our like kind of natural, our instinct would be to go to like, oh, this person takes everything too seriously, and like, why can't I just be the way I am or whatever? But like, how else can I view the situation would be like, okay, maybe this person is dealing with some shit of their own, and maybe they just want to be treated in a certain way from like their friends or whatever. And so you can still be yourself, but you just sort of are a little more mindful about your words around this person. I really can't think of better examples right now, but these two questions, you can apply them in every single situation and they work like a pair of charms. So the next tool, the last tool, is called My Mood, My Responsibility. What this means is, this is also something I'm stealing from my dog, but basically I used to think for the longest time that my mood, my responsibility just means my responsibility to others. Like, I always have to be on my guard, I can't mess up, and then there would be so much guilt anytime you mess up. But what my mood, my responsibility means is that you have a responsibility towards others, but you also have a responsibility towards yourself. Right, so let's talk about the others part. What that means is you are allowed to fuck up, especially if you have BPD. You're gonna have outbursts, you're gonna have reactions sometimes, and that's literally out of your control. You cannot always be on your guard, so it's okay to fuck up. But what you do have to do is, number one, start identifying your patterns, right? So what are your triggers? Like, what gets you, irritated very quickly, or like, when do you feel irritation? Is it like around the time that you are having a period, or let's say like you have a couple of friends who do not make you feel good about yourself. Why are you still hanging out with them, or talk to them about the issues you're facing with them. I don't know, it could be anything. Like, just kind of identify what your patterns are, what makes you feel triggered, and what makes you not feel good, and what makes you moody or irritable or more likely to be angry at someone. And so identify those patterns is one thing. The next thing would be to communicate those to the people around you, right? So this means, for instance, you're going through a phase of irritability, which is also very common with BPD. You could literally just tell, like, let's say you're meeting a friend every now and then, but you could tell this friend, like, hey, I'm not doing so well right now. I just need a break because I just feel like I want to be alone for some time. I want to figure some things out. And so, like, take a break from people, or take a break from difficult situations, or take a break from difficult people. Like, do that without guilt, because your emotional health comes first, right? Your mental health, your emotional health comes first before other people and their kind of baggage. So just know your stressors and triggers and take steps to sort of account for them, or just know that if you are in this phase right now, then maybe meeting someone who could say some potentially triggering things to you is not the best idea, for instance. So that's one thing. Another thing is therapy. So therapy is amazing, especially for people with emotional issues. I think DBT therapy is amazing. DBT stands for dialectical behavior therapy. It literally is made for people who have personality disorders, emotional disorders, all of that. And so those kinds of targeted therapy approaches, but also short-term counseling, or like literally kind of treating your mental health and emotional health as a core area of your life that you have to work through, just as you have to do so for your physical health. It's very important. And the thing that I talked about in the first tool is very important. So don't keep those kind of loose ends, like tie up those loose ends. Don't keep them open. If you know that a friend is saying some triggering things, resolve it within yourself, talk to another friend or journal about it, bring it up with that friend after that, have a conversation with them, communicate when you are feeling like your boundaries are not being respected, set boundaries first of all. And so those things are very important. And then the next thing is responsibility to yourself, right? So my mood, my responsibility means, again, like the same things: setting boundaries, communicating to others when you feel your boundaries are not being respected, versus like them violating your boundaries and then that affecting you to a state where you have like a huge breakdown or outburst. That is one thing. The other thing is to end relationships that are not serving you. And with this, I will also say that end the relationship or friendship with that person, whether it's like toxicity or whatever. But I would say don't close off the potential of a friendship or a romantic relationship or anything of that sort, because especially with BPD, there's like a lot of instances of where there's been childhood trauma, or like there's just been a lot of relationship issues in particular. So we sometimes have this tendency to close off like new people. I would say don't do that, because we, like humans, are social animals, and we do need other people in our lives, and they give life meaning, they give us meaning, they improve our state of mind. We feel whole when we're connected to other people. And also BPDers can often feel a lot of guilt after having an outburst at someone or something, but don't let that guilt stop you from making meaningful relationships a priority in your life, is what I would say. That you do deserve them. We just all make mistakes sometimes, which is perfectly all right, but that doesn't mean that people don't deserve relationships, right? Everyone has their flaws and everyone makes mistakes and all of that. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has those days. But it's a Miley Cyrus song. And then there was one more thing I want to say about this. Yes, reward yourself without guilt. This is the last step, which is that reward yourself without guilt means that I think neurodivergent people and people with, just personality disorders or emotional disorders need to cut themselves some fucking slack, right? So treat yourselves and reward yourselves. This means that if someone wins something, or like has this achievement, or meets a goal, reaches a goal, everyone's gonna congratulate them, and everyone's gonna like treat them, and they're gonna feel good about themselves. When you have these kinds of invisible problems or invisible disorders, like, just because people can't see them doesn't mean that you're not dealing with them. You're dealing with it all the time, every single day without break. And so what I mean by treat yourself is that if you're having like a bad day, like let's say you're on your period and you have PPD, and it's the first day, or it's the day before the first day, which is awful, like give yourself a little bit of a break that day. Or let's say you had like a particularly, your boss was an asshole to you at work, and that brought out all of the feelings of rejection and irritation, but since you were at work, you couldn't show any of it. Like, it was just a tough day. So when you come home, again, like, just read a book, meet a friend, like whatever makes you feel good, give yourself that day off, give yourself the rest of the day off, like just things like that. Be attuned to yourself, to your moods, to your needs, and just allow yourself breaks, in the sense of like allow yourself time off. Just, we don't have to always push and hustle. Like, we can very much take a break and allow ourselves that break, and allow ourselves a reward, and go ahead and take that reward and treat as like, this is my right. I have had a bad day, and I'm someone who is built different, and this is genuinely something that's not easy for me to regulate emotions, but I did a good job of it, or it's not easy for me to regulate emotions and I did a very bad job of it today, I'm gonna take that treat anyway because I like deserve a break, and it's okay. I will resolve that issue later. I will figure out a way to deal with it. I will, learn from it, and I'll keep trying to do better, but I'm gonna make mistakes anyways, and it's always gonna happen. So might as well not always feel like shit about it, right? So that was my final thing about treating yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That was all I had for you today. It was a short one today. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I will, as I keep trying to figure out what Reflect is and what this channel is, I'm gonna keep talking about art, philosophy, books, now emotions apparently, and sprinkle this YouTube channel with a little bit of like mental health, emotional health tools. So stick around if you are into that kind of thing, which I think we all should be. So yeah, have a beautiful day, night, evening, morning, dusk, dawn, whatever you are, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.